And we're live. Okay, welcome to the fourth ever Friendly Banter podcast. Thank you for listening. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Heather. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Heather? And why you wanted to pick this specific topic about K-pop?
Um, I am Heather. I feel like this is a job interview. Like I've done the tell me about yourself intro so many times, and like now I'm like, oh, I need to switch it. But currently on a co-op term for systems design engineering at the University of Waterloo. And honestly, I've been into K-pop since like grade 9, so it's been like a hell of a journey now. I was introduced to our mutual friend Beth, who was like, "Yo, you should listen to this like music video. I think you'll like it." And like I think she was pretty subtle about it. And like I watched a few of them. I was like, "Oh yeah, they're okay." And then like it kind of spirals from there. So the first music video she showed me was a Miss A video, and I was like, "Oh, I really like that girl Susie because she's like pretty interesting, and their music's pretty good." And then eventually started diving into like K dramas because Susie was in a K drama called Dream High. And then from there, there's like other people that you notice in like in the drama, and then you're like, oh, I should follow their music too. And then yeah, spiral from there, and now I'm like one of the well-renowned K-pop fans in our friend groups.
Sure. So can you tell us what's so appealing about Korean pop music in comparison to the regular old Western pop music?
I would say for me at least, I like K-pop because it's like a very fresh sound. I know a lot of people think it's annoying at times, but I think it's really different and like it's pretty captivating how like they don't use like a normal chord structure that all pop music usually does, or maybe they do, but they put a really interesting twist on it. And there's just the production of it all is a lot higher budget than what I think. Well, maybe this is like controversial or whatever, or maybe it's not true. But it's I find that they put a lot more effort into their products, like their music videos. If you remember, like Big Bang videos from like the 2000s, they were like pretty whack. And like if you look at G Dragon's hair or like any of their hair, honestly, and then like all the costumes and like stuff, it's just visually very appealing. And sound wise, it's like almost like crack for your ears.
What does that mean?
It's like really addictive. Like honestly, like most groups have that one annoying song that like just gets stuck in your head.
True, true, true. Yeah, so what kind of demographics do you see listening to K-pop the most, I guess?
Um, I think because I've been listening to K-pop for a long time now, I have definitely seen it catered to a lot more people from generations. At least when I got into K-pop, it was like all the girl groups were like all the sexy like types of concepts. Then there was like a whole generation where it was like cute concepts with like Red Velvet, G Friend, and like Twice was cute concept as well. And now we're like in another fourth generation almost that does like girl crush all the time. So like I think it really caters to what the general audience wants to hear. And because they're moving into a more of an international demographic now, um, they're like more catering to that appeal.
Hmm.
But like definitely both girls and guys, there's both girl and guy groups out there to like match that appeal. Definitely see it catered to more like older people and younger people. Um, and like people who are into different genres, there's definitely different types of K-pop as well. So like I think I see it catering to a lot of people.
Okay, sure. So you talked a bit about how we're in like its fourth generation or fourth iteration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the audience that doesn't know, can you expand into maybe like the history of it and what was the first, second, and third generation, and what does a generation mean?
Well, honestly, I don't know much about this, but there have been like almost like generations of K-pop where they have very different feels, and then like so, let's say like um, there's like three different companies called SM. JYP and YG. Honestly, YG is like questionable now, but we won't get into that yet. And let's say they are producing these groups for like a really long time, and they release one group. This is, I like take SM for example. They had like HOT as their male first gen group. Like after like 5 or 6 years, they'll release another group, and this will be their Generation 2 group. I think like EXO. Oh no. Let's go Shiny. Shiny's Generation 2. So that's their next one, and then they have their third gen group, EXO, which is after another few years. And then now they're on their fourth generation, which is NCT. So like they just go through these generations. Obviously, smaller companies are not gonna participate in every single generation, but there's just these groups of like in a timeline where K-pop people are like producing groups.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. I think for the audience that's not as familiar with it, because I feel like the way to become a Korean pop star is a very unique process, right?
Mm.
In terms of both like individually, but also from the company side and all the formal processes they have developed in Korea. So could you explain
Yeah, for
like
sure.
how you go from like regular Ojo to I don't know BTS number four?
Sure. What's different about the Korean industry is that they have a lot more of a production system. So people will audition or even get street casted, and then they'll enter a company as a trainee. So then once they enter trainee stages, they can just like take a lot of classes, whether it's dance classes, vocal classes. Um, there's like acting classes, and then like foreign languages. So because they like to teach people Japanese, sometimes Chinese or like English.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's just like a lot of lessons that they attend, and then eventually there's like this showcase or like an assessment period where they will take all the current trainees and then pick the ones that they think will make the best group for their company, and then those picked people will become what becomes the new group, and then they'll create their songs and whatnot from there.
Yeah. Okay. And then so how many people get eliminated from like each process, I guess? Like
It really depends.
how many people get
I think
selected to become a trainee? How many trainees get selected to like debut?
honestly speaking, I don't really know what the ratio is, but it's like you're picking from, let's say, like 30 trainees
Mm-hmm.
into, and then you're picking a group of like 6 to 9. Like
True.
the odds are not very high, and obviously, because let's say you've entered a company, they've just released one group, they're not going to be releasing another group in like let's say the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some people often, because they didn't get picked for the last round, they don't want to wait for another 6 years before the company can produce another group, so they jump companies.
I see.
So you often hear about people who were trainees of other companies, but then they go into like smaller companies because they know they can debut faster from that.
I see. Um, so to become an actual K-pop star is really, really hard, I'm assuming then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if you mentioned this, but most trainees they start from like a very young age, right? It seems like a general trend is that they start even younger nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. So do you ever think could be I don't know. When do you how young do these trainees usually start?
They can start anywhere from like 9 years old to like 13.
And can you explain to the audience the kind of like schedules they have as a trainee?
Um, I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure it's like basically like take your school, and instead of those classes, you have like trainee classes. So whether it's like dance classes, singing classes or whatnot, you basically have like a 9 to 5 schedule of those classes,
Wait.
and you're not getting paid for it either.
Don't they go to school
So it's like
too,
basically,
though? It's not like they drop out of school, right?
some of them do drop out of school.
Oh, really?
Like usually, it really depends.
Oh.
It depends on the company, and then I know the younger ones tend to try to go back to school, but there are people who, like, once they start a career, they also drop out as well.
Aren't you
So it's like
legally
a lot to balance.
aren't you legally obligated to stay in school until you're like 16? Or is that just in
Maybe.
North America?
Okay, maybe like the younger generations are not allowed to drop out of school at that age.
Yeah.
But like the older ones definitely do.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And
Or I'm just spitting out wrong facts, but that's okay.
no worries, the audience can fact check themselves. Anyways. So so it sounds like to me you're putting a bunch of like, I don't know, really small kids into these very, very difficult and arduous programs, all in hopes of they can have a slight chance of becoming a K-pop star, right? And they're not getting paid to do this, right? They have, in most cases, they have to pay for the lessons themselves as well, where like the company lends them money to take the classes, right?
And they have to pay them back once they debut and make money.
Yeah. So do you think, how young is too young?
I definitely think that it's good to train talent from a young age. Like, oftentimes I'm looking at these idols and I think some of them could have been talented people. Other people are definitely just very skilled because they have been trained very well. So they didn't necessarily have talent, but because of their hard work, it really paid off and they're able to showcase good vocals or good dance. But I would say, like, I would prefer if they didn't start until, like, let's say 15 or something. Where they have more of a conscious, like, view on what they want to do with their future, and they're not like, I want to be, like, a princess when I grow up, or, like, I want to be a K-pop star when I grow up.
Yeah. So, do you ever think that the current way they do it is a little bit, I don't know. So do you have any opinions on like I call it like the factory-esque style of music production in in Korea, and I kind of thought about it quite a bit in the case that in Korea, right, you have like a very like assembly line version of producing music where it's like you take somebody off the street, like you curate them from the street, like the ones that are like good looking or whatever, good looking or are have really nice voices, right? And then you put them into like this process of trying to improve their vocals, improve their dancing, improve their like all their other idol skills, right? In hopes of like polishing them into like a giant superstar, right? And yeah, so do you see and then it feels very, to some people it feels dehumanizing in a way because historically music is usually produced in a more creative and artistic pursuit, whereas in Korea it feels very, or at least on the business side of it feels very businessy and very it feels very businessy and it feels very like uninspirational, or in the case like it's just a factory pumping out products, right? And the products just happen to be idols. Yeah.
These people.
Yeah.
The process itself is definitely very manufactured. A lot of times the artists have said themselves that they don't really get a lot of say in what they do with their music. So a lot of people in the past have definitely hated the songs that they've produced just because their company wanted them to do that. And I've definitely seen different idols that I thought, like, I don't know how to say this nicely, but didn't deserve a spot just because, like, they definitely are not talented, but let's say they have like the visuals to, I guess, capture the eyes of the Korean fans or whatnot. Um, they are put through this process, and or even people who are not like the best looking either, they are just like given a spot because they other people think they are good products to be placed in the like in the spotlight. But like maybe ultimately, I think at least as a fan, I'm looking at them as a production of music, and that's usually where I go to for that. But these people are sold as products, and sometimes they're not great singers, and maybe they're good dancers, but I'm not as interested in that aspect. Or maybe they're bad at both, and they're just like pretty faces. But like I'm not interested in that, and I really hope that they have like great vocals to be able to produce music. When I go on Spotify and check out the music, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know how like that person became an idol because they're not great at singing. And then a lot of the times, a lot of artists don't have great live vocals. A lot of their recorded music is very produced and very like manufactured, so they're not great at live vocals. But at the end of the day, I think they're still selling music, and that's where their focus should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great segue to kind of looking at the flip side of the case, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
um, it just feels maybe manufactured because most music beforehand, in at least in the West, right? It's made by individuals, if not individuals, like a garage band, uh, like basically like people who just made music for fun of it and then became really popular. Like none of the like great artists of the West really became uh, like the sensations they are now because they were put through like a formalized process of polishing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only case. That's only the case for music. But if you look at like something very close, like if you look at Hollywood, right? Like because nobody can make a movie by themselves, right? Like the entire process
Mm-hmm.
is very very similar to how they make
Mm-hmm.
music in Korea, right? It's just
Yeah.
um, it seems like Koreans have adopted that style of creating art into uh, into the music industry instead of just making
Mm-hmm.
movies, right? And yes, and then as you said, right? So it feels like a lot of these groups are just kind of carefully tailored to suit the general public's demands. So you have people that
Mm-hmm.
can sing, but you have people that can dance, and you have people that like just look good in front on the cover of album or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, at the end of the day, it's a product that's sold to consumers, and it feels
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it feels
I think at the same time, sorry to cut you off,
noise.
but Korea really sells them. I know they're sold a lot as like products, but they're also sold as people
Mm-hmm,
because oftentimes people expect all of them to be good at everything. They're
mm-hmm,
expected to go look good, they're expected to sing well, they're expected to dance well, and they're expected to have good personalities. And those are the type of people you want to have the spotlight. Obviously, they're going to lack in some areas, but a lot. I think what keeps people going back to K-pop is because they are sold as a whole package. People, you really get attached to their
mm-hmm.
artists because, let's say, they're in the spotlight so much, and you really get to know them as people almost, like what their hobbies are, what they like to do. I think Korea really caters to a lot of the fans more because there is so much fan interaction as well.
Yeah.
So they have V Lives all the time. They have a lot more concerts and just like showcases to be able to connect with the fans a lot more, which I feel like oftentimes doesn't happen in the West here. Like, do you know what Ariana Grande is doing like a month in advance, or like all these schedules, or like how much appreciation do you see the Western fans doing for their like wait, what did I just say?
Western artists do for their
Artists as their for their fans,
Yeah.
or like how often do you see them like going on live to talk to them as well?
Yeah, for
So I don't
sure.
know. I think it's very different.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what I was gonna go into, where it's like, yeah, no, like it's actually really good because I was gonna say the process is very manufactured, but especially for the consumers that buy the products, they don't actually view
Mm-hmm.
them as just products, even though they are sold as them. They actually get attached
Yeah.
to the idols themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really 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 interesting, I think, because
Yeah,
because
I agree.
it feels so. I don't want to use the word fake because it's really, for lack of a better word, it's
Mm.
um okay, yeah, fake's not a good word. It's more, it's, yeah, I think manufacture is the better word. It feels so, if like the process feels so manufactured, but the end
Mm-hmm.
result feels so real, and you really get attached to, like, people, the consumers actually
Mm-hmm.
get attached to real people, and
Yeah.
they even get attached to the struggles that they go through in the processes, which is really,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is just so interesting. Like you feel
It's
sympathy
very
for them
yeah.
having to go through the arduous processes that are like
Mm-hmm.
not very appealing.
Yeah, and the fact that like let's say your idol gets mistreated or something, fans are gonna have their back. Like
Yeah.
as soon as they find out, there's gonna be people who are gonna go attack the companies and beg for them to treat them better.
Hmm.
But at the same time, if your idol does something bad, let's say, um, like anything or whatever, like smoke weed or something, where they consider it like terrible in Korea, like people are gonna like be canceling you. Like cancel culture is really big in K-pop.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Let's talk about that. So, why do you think that is?
I feel like people are just so attached to knowing that their idols are like people in the spotlight, and they want them to be the perfect person. And as soon as they like do something bad, people are gonna know. And a lot of the times, people are like, "Oh, I don't want to be um, like obsessive over someone who is like doing immoral things." But like, obviously, the like standard for moral whatever is very different from the West as it is in Korea, because there's so much more like there's a lot more like honor and pride and different things, and like the way people I don't know, the way people like just act is very different. There's
Hmm.
like a whole like junior senior respect system, so like when people like don't bow to their seniors, people are like, oh, this person's like gonna get canceled because they're not respectful or like whatnot.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just a lot of cancel culture. Or
Yeah.
like if like idols date publicly, people are gonna get at them too because they're like, yo, I thought like we could have been a thing. Or I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just like people. There is a lot of respect for their idols, but at the same time, like people are like living for these people, and like the second someone does something bad, like it could be the end of their career at,
Hmm. Hmm.
in the worst case scenario as well.
Yeah. Do you think it's healthy for the general public to be so obsessive over, I don't know, these idols?
Definitely not. There are a lot of people that spend so much money on merch. Let's say, take BTS for example. BTS has released how many albums in the last 5 years? Let's say you followed them for your entire career. They've had, what, like 3 world tours now? And imagine you're spending that much money on every single concert. You're buying all the albums. There's like, what, 4 versions for each album, too? That's like a lot of money you're spending on these people who don't necessarily know who you are, and it's just like a hobby for you as well. Like obviously do what you want with your money and enjoy what you can, but at the same time it's like that's a lot of money. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna be spending that on a lot of other things.
Yeah. There's something I always never understood, which is when, like, it's very frowned upon for idols to, like, date, because when they
Mm.
date, like, they like their popularity like takes like a dive,
Yeah. I
which
actually read an article about this. So JYP, one of the other big three companies,
mhm,
has he's not a CEO anymore. I don't know what he's called, like their main producer or whatever,
sure.
who is JYP, who the company is named after.
Hmm.
He was saying his company, he has a 3-year dating ban, so all the artists 3 years after they debut, they're not allowed. Sorry, up until the 3 years,
Hmm.
they aren't allowed to date publicly, at least I guess, or like they're not supposed to date at all. But he was saying that he actually dated someone before he like hit that mark, and he was saying that he just felt really ingenuine when he was like, "Oh, my fans, I love you guys so much." And like, just because he had someone, and he didn't want his fans to know, like, that he had someone like that, that he couldn't love them the way that he wanted to, or that they wanted him to love them back. So it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it feels like they're still people, they're allowed to do what they want. I don't know. It just,
But
I don't
but
know.
isn't it super easy to be able to compartmentalize that like you're never gonna like the love you have for your idol or they have for you is never gonna be the same as if you're dating them, right? Like
I think there's a lot of people who, like, idolize, like, being in love with their idol and then also, like, fantasize one day being, like, in a relationship with them. Because it has happened in the past where, like, idols have eventually gotten into relationships with their fans. And some of them have been successful. But, like, what are the chances of that? I don't know.
yeah, that's you know what that is? That is grade A simping. To buying everything they have when they don't even know you and imagining all day that you'd be dating them and then as soon as they date somebody else you cancel
You
them.
drop them.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That is grade A simping, dude.
And it's not even, like, by canceling them is not even like just dropping them. This means like going and attacking them, wishing for like death threats and like whatever is like really bad.
Dang, that is really crazy.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so? Well, I guess they do say love and hate it are just different sides of the same coin. But yeah, like
Hmm.
I don't know. Could you help me understand how someone becomes so obsessive over an idol?
I don't know. I think we kind of went over parts of it, but like again, they are good at a lot of things.
Hmm.
They have a good personality. They are talented people. They are good looking as well. Um, and once you start like getting into their music and like following them as people, you get more and more attached to them. And as that process grows, there becomes a lot of like stalker fans or like people who are just like curious about what they're doing and like follow them around. You want to see your idols, so like you start stalking them. There's people who like find out what hotels they're on, like which flights they're taking, selling like random stuff that they have had before. I don't know. It's just like, I think once that initial like spark ignites, it becomes like a growing fire. And
Hmm.
as long, if you don't have the right mental capacity for that, it definitely goes in like burns an entire forest.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Do you think there's any validity to the point of view that um, fans get obsessive over these kind of idols because they want to be them, or is it that they they feel inadequate themselves and it feels I don't know good to be able to latch onto an identity that is like perfect in a sense, and when that image gets shattered, then they hop off because that is no longer perfect. And
I don't know, but I think people definitely see them as role models. Like they attained a dream that people often have, and oftentimes, it is really a persona that the company is putting on. Some idols actually don't earn that much money, but they're dressed in high luxury clothing all the time. They are told to be to act happy all the time as well. So, once, let's say, companies come out with the information that they're not perfect, people are very upset because they're like, "Oh, I thought you were like a perfect person. What happened?"
yeah. I don't know, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. I feel like it's like that quote, never meet your heroes. Because, you know, nobody ever is perfect.
Yeah.
And the more you paint them in that way, as soon as you get to know the real them, it's like that image comes crashing down. But it really shouldn't be like that, because I feel like I feel like most human interactions are only interesting because they're not perfect. If things were perfect, it'd be just boring, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And I kind of feel bad for those kind of fans too, Because, I don't know, it feels like they're trapped in the identity of their idols. I don't know. Maybe that's judgmental of me.
There's still a lot of fans out there who are very supportive of all the faults of their idols, and they really learn to accept them, which is very positive. And obviously, everyone wants those type of fans that are going to support you even in your lowest times.
Yeah.
It's definitely improved from what I've heard in the past. In the past, there'd be like concerts, let's say, with like different idol groups, and then K-pop has these things called light sticks. So like, you buy these light sticks and you like wave them around during your concerts, and they like flash different lights depending on like what the official colors of your group is. But there are certain times where a group will come on and it's not the group that they're there to cheer for, and everyone turns off their lights and no one is like cheering anymore. It's what they call a black ocean, where they're literally performing and no one reacts. There's no lights in the audience. And it's just like really sad. Like imagine, like we don't have, I guess, the equivalent here in the Western culture, but like oftentimes people will have like those wristbands that glow up when they go to concert, or like there'll be certain songs where people will have their like phones lit up and their flashlights. But like, can you imagine doing an entire set and having no one like reacting to your music, no one cheering for you, and everyone just like, I don't know, disgracing your presence?
Yeah, that sounds rough.
Yeah, we've definitely improved from that. And like a lot of fans, back then at least, usually you found one group and you stuck to them and they were like your lifeline. Now we have a lot more multi-fans where they support a lot more groups, and even if they don't support as many groups, they are very supportive of other groups as well.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. No, I think that's good. So do you think? Do you think that's a result of just, I don't know, people becoming better in a sense, or is it more like 20th century like war on prejudice kind of thing? 21st
I don't
century.
know. I definitely think, at least back in those days, K-pop was definitely more of a Korean thing, or like an Asian thing, like an Asia thing. And now it has opened up to more of the non-traditional demographic.
Yeah.
So I feel like that demographic back then was very traditional, and they knew things to work a certain way, and now people are kind of rather open to different opinions, because there's so many more people listening to their music, and there's just so many more opinions flying around that people care less and they are more accepting of other opinions as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think it's harder or easier to navigate through all this, like different opinions nowadays? Because it feels like, because like you said before, right? Um, especially for like the groups and whatever, like if you would be a fan of one group or so per se, you'd be a fan of one group and that'd be your lifeline. You support them all the way, right?
Yeah.
And then like if you do X, then you get Y receivement, right? If you do X bad thing, then you get black hell, you know. And but nowadays, like there's like the whole world is open, right, through the internet and through other means, like where it's like there's so many different opinions, like you not only have to appeal to traditional Korean fans, you have to appeal to like Chinese, Japanese fans, you have to appeal to Brazilian fans, you have to appeal to Portuguese fans. Like you're literally like global, right? And like even like every single Korean pop like music video nowadays, like depending on like when you view it, you have like one country that's just like flooding the comments, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
there's definitely a lot of like controversy over like, let's say like one member having like dreadlocks or something, and people are like, oh, that's disrespect for like the black community or not. And like I think a lot of the times, in my opinion at least, it's a lot of fashion statements. I don't think for the majority of the time the K-pop community does not want to be upsetting anyone, because those are their fans and that's where they're getting their money at the end of the day. So they want to have as many people. They don't mean things to be bad, and they're trying to be relevant at the same time while meeting everyone's expectations, while putting on a good face for everyone. And like it is a lot to handle for them, and it's a lot of pressure because they're literally in the spotlight at all times, whether it's like in every single time zone there's someone watching.
Yeah. So taking account all the different pressures that idols face and all the things that need to do well in order to become
like, is it necessary?
Yeah. Is it necessary to have all the complicated processes in order to train you to become, I don't know, a suitable idol, I guess. Even if it means sacrificing your youth.
At the same time, people are still getting canceled even when they go through that process. So I don't know if it's really worth it anymore. There's certain people who train for like 6 to 10 years, and they still get a lot of people who are hating them. There's people who literally train for like a year or like 2 years, and they still get hate. So like, does the process really work? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think like there's definitely people who, there's different roles in a K-pop group, and let's say take ITZY for example. We have Leah, who is supposedly their main vocal. She gets canceled all the time for seeming like a lazy dancer, even though she's trying her best. Is she known? Is she supposed to be the person who is known for dancing? No. Does her moves, like obviously in a group where everyone else is an amazing dancer, she might stand out a little bit as a weaker dancer, but that doesn't mean that she's being lazy. And I think, like, obviously she's trying her hardest. She's trying to keep up with these amazing dancers, and it is a lot to deal with. Like, and when people are hating on her for trying her best, it gets really hard. I don't know. Personal take.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, so I guess we can conclude that it's hard for them. Yeah.
It's hard regardless. Process or no process.
Yeah, it is hard. Yeah. Do you see is the Korean process for producing actors the same as well?
I'm not sure.
Because they're also signed to the entertainment companies, right?
Yeah, they are definitely signed to certain companies. There are acting lessons that they do take. I just don't know how long they usually like train. I feel like you audition for like different roles and like try to get in. Some directors will pick people that they want, in hope that they will go.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they're looking for people who are well known already, because when there's someone like a famous actor who's coming out with a new movie, you're definitely gonna watch that. If it's like a unknown face, there's gonna be less people who are gonna watch that. So it really depends. So a lot of the times what idols do is they start off as idols and then they move into acting, because the careers for is a lot longer, and I think there's more people watching it, and that there's more money in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes those people are taking the good-looking ones and they're throwing them into dramas. So oftentimes they are not the best, and they are downcast because of that.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to hate on them for being bad actors or bad actresses, but they're there because they have a pretty face. Other times they are praised because some of them do well, and it's not really their main occupation either, because they're known to be idols.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just like a lot of double standards for like them to be good at it, but at the same time they're like, oh, you're not supposed to be good at this.
Yeah. Do you so it sounds like having idols go into acting or into these TV shows, right? Generates a lot of, I guess, publicity, right? And then people watch that show because they want to watch this specific idol acting in this drama. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so does that ever, I don't know. So it's like you said, right? Like even though their main job is to be an idol, they get casted to act because of the publicity, but it doesn't exactly mean like it's gonna they're gonna be like insane actors, because that's not their main occupation, right? And then, so I guess one, is it fair for them to judge them and based on like their acting, if their goal was never to watch a good show, their goal was to watch X person in this show, right? And also, does that ever like just deteriorate the general level of TV shows because you have all these different interests in just having stars and having different publicity schemes in order to generate views for your show, but not necessarily like making your show like that great? Does that make sense?
I think definitely good and bad. Take a lot of idol dramas, for example, like Dream High. Basically, you're taking every single idol that you can think of into one TV show and having them all act into this drama and hoping for the best. Obviously, the acting level is not going to be as good as a drama where it's like pure acting people who have been in the industry for like many years. But people are there because they want to see their idols act and get more coverage of them.
Yeah.
I think, oh my goodness. Again, it just really depends. There's usually like one or two idol actors in like a TV show. Or like, it really depends on what TV shows as well. You're not gonna get like idols in like melodramas where you're supposed to like cry your eyes out because they know they're not gonna do a great job with them if they aren't really known to be good actors for that. Other times, some of them are really good at them, so they will cast them. So it really depends. I think if a drama is bad, you wouldn't necessarily blame it on the actors or actresses. Oftentimes, it is the writers that make or bust the drama just because of the storyline.
Fair.
But personal take again. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so could you explain to the audience, I don't know, what's so appealing about Korean dramas, especially in comparison to, I don't know, like Western TV shows?
Sure. Personally, I was a lot more into like animes before I got into K-dramas.
Sorry.
And after watching a few K dramas, I found that the stories are much more intricate and there's a lot more time for character development. I feel like with animes, there's a lot more like they're either the 12 episode for half an hour series, or there's like the 1,000 episode ones
but
like
you can't
Naruto
really
or One
compare dramas to anime.
Well, that's what I was doing at the time because
Okay,
that was
okay.
like my
Sure,
form of
sure.
entertainment. So, I found that personally, I didn't like investing too much time into TV shows because I get really attached to the characters as I watch it. And then you only get so much character development and story in a 12 episode TV show because I didn't want to commit to like 1,000 episodes that I couldn't finish or I didn't want to finish. But most K dramas are 16 episodes of 1 hour long episodes. And there's just so much time for so much to happen in every single episode. There's so much that really occurs that they go through. And I felt that these stories, this is all, again, controversial, but like, that they were a lot more well thought out and like a lot more interesting just because they had so much more time to be able to do that.
Yeah. So do you think it's really the
And
format that
like,
gives it?
I think so. I feel like with Western TV shows, it's often like, what? Like 20 episode seasons and there's like 6 seasons.
Yeah. And depending on like, and like the season's never like the first season is never capped because you can always have another season. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like with K-dramas, it's very unlikely for shows to get renewed. And when they do, they are really good.
Yeah. So it's a complete storyline. Yeah. Okay.
And you have that within around 16 hours of content.
Okay. So you think the format is what gives us the edge? Okay. Okay.
And I think these stories overall, I've just enjoyed them a lot more than Western stories.
And why do you think that is?
I think, again, this is just personal take, but like I feel like Western culture is a lot more like into the clubbing and like sex scene, while Western is a lot more like, I don't know. I feel like it's more relatable in a sense.
Okay, but like,
or like
if you talk about any of the popular Western TV shows, none of them have anything to do with that in like the past decade. Like, what are all the popular TV shows in the past decade? There's like Breaking Bad. Okay, I guess that's
okay, that's
drugs.
because I don't watch any of them.
Okay.
I'm really out of the picture
Yeah,
for that.
yeah.
Like that was just at the time. Like the only TV show that I watched was like Glee.
Okay, well, you're comparing Korean dramas to like a teenage soap opera. It's like that's not the same thing, okay?
I know, but like that was my take on like Western media. And like even movies that we watch too. There's like usually something in there
Actually,
I think it's trying to appeal.
I guess I have a take on this maybe. So, maybe it's like the romance genre that Western culture just doesn't get right. Like you think Korean dramas do a lot better. Maybe that's it. Because it's definitely good Western TV shows, but like none of them center around like the I don't know, normal life romance genre ish that all Korean dramas center around. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like Korean dramas are not very realistic in the romance scene either.
Yeah,
Like,
they're not realistic. Maybe they're not realistic, but that's the genre they're in. You know, like because you're comparing it to. Because right now you're comparing it to Glee and you're comparing it to anime, so like that's kind of the sense I'm getting, right? Because it's not really suitable to compare to I don't know like Breaking Bad or something, but it's very it's more suitable to compare it to Glee, and it's a lot better than Glee.
Yeah.
is what you're saying
True.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I think. I'm trying to think of what other TV shows in Western I've watched recently. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, so yeah, okay. I think that's actually a really good conclusion. Basically, there's no good Western soaps anymore.
Hmm.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I
Uh,
think again with like Western culture again, they're also like very violent.
hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, yeah. I guess if you talk about the specific genres that K dramas are in, which is like the soap opera ish genre,
Mm.
then there's definitely a lot more drug, sex, and violence in Western ones. In fact, that's like all there is. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, not to say that there isn't in K dramas, but I think like it doesn't center around that,
Uh
which is
huh.
what I like about it.
Okay.
There's a lot more like character
Sure.
development, and it's a lot more about their stories and their struggles
Hmm.
rather than like the other things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I dude. You know what's hilarious? Basic.
No, you haven't said anything yet.
Okay. I'll tell you something that's hilarious. Basically,
Okay.
basically in Western rap, right? Or in like North American rap
Mm.
or European rap, if you're into that. Uh,
Okay.
right? It's as you said, like it's just about money, sex, and drugs. You know, like that's like every single rap song. But
Hmm.
in like Eastern culture, because those things are so looked down upon, right?
Hmm.
It's hilarious listening to like Chinese rappers because all they say is
Oh
like,
yeah.
I work hard every day. I grind, 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 grind. I grind,
Hmm.
work hard. I get that money. I grind. Yeah. It's that
Yeah.
because of that. Yeah, that's all they talk about. I just find it hilarious because
Hmm.
man, they cannot find any other topics.
I think a lot with the sorry, not Western, Eastern side is that they care a lot more about status
Hmm.
rather than the other stuff. So, like, a lot of the time, people's pride is very important to them. I think it's not as important here. But, like, it's like the worst thing to, like, get down on your knees and beg someone for something because people are just like, they have a lot of, like, face value. And they just don't want to they don't want to stoop that low for other people. Which I think is kind of interesting because, like, here you're like, oh yeah, whatever. I'll do what I have to like get what I want.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes.
for sure. Yeah. If you listen to our second episode, Friendly Banter, we talked about the differences in culture and um, there's a difference in hierarchical power or power distance, right? And there's also a difference in collectivism versus individualism, where here it's like a lot more like centered around the individual and
Hmm.
like each person is relatively equal and like you just do what you gotta do, you know? While
Hmm.
yeah, while in Eastern culture it's still very much uh, a high a hierarchical power dynamic where like people
Yeah.
have their roles and
Hmm.
you have to respect the different roles. Like there's a lot more like authority, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even though I watch a lot of them, I don't necessarily wish that that were the case
Hmm.
over here
Hmm.
a lot of the times,
Yeah,
but I think it's just like a very interesting take
for
of
sure.
it.
Yeah. So to cap off our episode, could you give the audience some your best recommendations for both Korean dramas and songs?
Oh my goodness. For Korean dramas, I would say if you're into those like I call them like slice of lives, but like those types where it's just like going through daily tasks. I really recommend any of the Reply series. So there's three of them. There's Reply 1997, 94, and 88. Personally, I think 88 is the one that hits the hardest. Definitely is like one that you need a tissue box next to you just in case those tears come. But those ones are some of my top recommendations. And recently, because of quarantine, I decided to watch a show called Dr. Romantic. And there's 2 seasons of those. And I absolutely loved it. Like, the first season came out, like, 5 years ago? And I wasn't into it. And I never got into it. But the second season came out in 2020. And wow. Like, go watch those. Like, I know a lot of people are not into medical dramas, but, like, it's very well done. Like, just try to, like, close your eyes for the medical scenes, because they can be a lot.
Unless you're a doctor.
Yeah. But I'm sure doctors will have something to say, be like, oh, that's, like, not practical, or, like, you shouldn't be doing that. I don't know. I'm sure someone will have something to say about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, K-pop-wise, I personally am into a group called Day6. I think their music is very versatile. They have a lot of different types, but they are mostly advertising themselves for rock music. So if you're into that, they have 5 vocalists, but 4 really amazing vocalists. The 5th one is like a cameo once in a while. But I would say go listen to their latest album called The Book of Less Gravity. I personally really like their first full album called Sunrise. Other groups that I'm into, Red Velvet. Red Velvet has great B-sides. They have,
What does that mean?
again, some amazing vocalists. B-sides are, like, in Western, we have them, like, as, like, what are they called? Like, singles.
Oh.
In like, K-pop, they're called, like, title tracks. It's, like, the song that they promote the most.
I see.
And then all the B-sides are, like, the other songs
Okay.
on the album
Okay.
that they're not promoting.
Dude, I feel like there's so many terminology in...
There are so many terms.
Like, dude, how can it be a comeback if you just released the album 2 months ago? Like, that's not a comeback, bro. That's just a new album.
It's a repackaged album, usually.
Yeah.
It's literally the same album, but, like, maybe, like, 1 or 2 songs, and then, like, more pictures of a different concept.
Like, bro, you didn't come back. You were still here. Like, you didn't go anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Another group with very versatile music, BTS. I think they've definitely shown, like, a lot of change in their music in the past few years. I think they're experimenting a lot more. They're catering to different people. They're not like that grungy music that they used to be, which I still like, but, like, it's nice to have something fresh and hear their fresh sound while still sounding like themselves.
Okay. Actually, I think that's kind of interesting. Can we talk about BTS and their rise to dominance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
I don't know. I thought it was very interesting that BTS rose so much in international
Acclaim.
popularity,
Yeah.
I guess. And they were, let's say, almost the first ones to really break that barrier. I know in the past we've had, like, Big Bang perform at certain music awards shows. Wonder Girls came before, Girls' Generation came before, but they were just, like, they came in once and then they left the scene and never came back. But I think BTS has come in and they've really stayed here.
Yeah.
They definitely make more of a, like, scene.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to stay and appeal to the people here. Because the Western market is such a big demographic that they want to be targeting now. And they only have one member that really speaks English, and funny story is he learned English from watching Friends, which I don't know how you do. Like, I watch so many K-dramas, and I literally have picked up, like, 3 lines of Korean.
Well,
so, like, props to him.
I think in neuroscience any neuroscientists out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure linguistic ability and musical ability are almost the same.
Mm.
Well, not almost the same, but they come from like
The
the same
same
part of
side
your
of the
brain. The
brain.
same not
Yeah.
just same side. Like they come from like like very same part of the brain. So
Mm.
if you're good at one thing, it means you're good at the other, basically. Like your linguistics and your musical ability are, I don't know, just part of your hearing talk. I don't know. It's basically the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I thought it was very interesting that BTS was the group to do that because they got really popular in Korea for a bit, um, and then suddenly they're here,
Yeah.
and then they stayed here. But I think the way that they've been catering, they like did interviews, they did a lot of shows, they made connections with like Western artists and did a lot of collabs that way, which I think is what like caused them to stay. And they are continuously doing collabs with different Western artists, whether it's Halsey, um, they wrote a song with Choi Sivan, they did a collab on Laugh's album. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like very impressive what they've done and like how they have maintained their spot here. We've seen like a lot of other artists like Blackpink who have been trying to do the very similar things. And Blackpink, you would think, would be a lot more catered towards the Western audience because they do have three of their four members speaking fluent English. They're all like foreigners, I guess you would say, in the Korean sense because they're not like Korean natives. They've been doing a lot of collabs. Their music is very catered towards the Western audience with like the girl crush theme.
Is
And
it
then
though?
we're seeing a lot of other groups doing that too.
I feel like in Western culture, there's no. I feel like in Western culture, girl groups can never be. I guess it's also true in Korea. Girl groups will never be the size of boy groups. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like you have Backstreet Boys, you have, oh my god, I can't believe I forgot their name. What?
NSYNC, One
As
Direction.
One Direction. How did I forget One Direction? Anyways, yeah, One Direction, NSYNC, like all these like boy groups, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
the only girl group that's like of some prominence is like Spice Girls. But even they weren't
Mm.
like that popular, you know.
Destiny's Child.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's probably just due to the fact that female fans are a lot more into it than
That's
male
true.
fans
That's
are.
true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Mm.
Do you think there'll be more groups like BTS in the future, or do you think this is
I think they've started a trend, and a lot more groups are starting to see the value in the Western demographic,
Mhm.
and they are hoping to tap into it now.
Yeah.
That it is like there's no more like this segregation almost of like or like looking down towards like Korean pop music,
Sure.
and a lot more people are open to it now that they've seen like one successful group that let's say they like their music towards, and they're like, oh, maybe I can like try and listen to other groups now. And I think K-pop has definitely grown ever since BTS has entered the scene here.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a cool success story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're so big now. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think as a fan, I'm very appreciative of it
Mhm.
because I've been a fan since like what grade 9,
Mhm.
and didn't really talk to that many people about it. Usually, it was like a closet Koreaboo in a sense. But now I can bring it up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know what K-pop is. Like, I know like a few groups, and like people are a lot more open to having that conversation."
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Actually, I kind of do want to talk about how much do you think um like these media products is shaping Korean culture both internally and like I guess externally, like as in like how the world sees them. Because I feel like it's like so big, right? Like it's not even like it's not
What do you mean?
um like I feel like as a result of their as a result of their pursuits into making like their dramas and their music industry, right? It has like exponentially exported like cultural products to like the outside world, I guess, and that has brought a lot of attention to just Korean everything. Like, like there's a lot more tourism. There's a lot more just attention. Um, like, and not just BTS. I feel like, especially today, there's like Korea produces all the Asian cultural icons. Like, like if you think about like, mm, I can think of like four like really really big names. They're just like
Are you gonna do the Korean top four again?
is it Korean top four? I forget. It's
The-
BTS. It's the director of Parasite. What's his name again? I forget.
Kim Bong something.
Yeah. Bong something. I just remember Bong. Anyways, yeah, director of Parasite. There is
The soccer
oh
player.
my, dude, why is dude, how does the name escape me?
The soccer dude. And then there's that league player, right?
Yeah. Oh my god, how did dude?
I don't know their names.
How do I?
Let me search it.
How do I forget his name? Song Hyun-min. Song Hyun-min. Oh my god. Okay.
Okay.
Dude, sorry, my mind just blanked. Yeah, Song Hyun-min.
Okay.
Song Hyun-min, and yeah, Faker, which is he's a professional League of Legends player, right? But like,
Yeah.
and there's like other people, right? There's like that skater girl. I forget her name. Yeah,
Kim Yuna.
yeah, Kim Yuna, right? But all the like really big cultural icons, I feel like all come from Korea. Like I can't name you like more than one or two like famous cultural icons from like other Asian countries. Like China, like what? There's like Jackie Chan,
Yao Ming.
Yao Ming. Yeah, like legit. Like who else? Like I really can't think of any. Like
I feel like with those countries, Eastern countries, they often tend to stick to their own country or like the Asian community rather than trying to tap into the Western one because it's so different culturally.
yeah, I agree. And I think the way that Korea is proceeding is making like a huge like it's making a huge wave, I guess, in the world for I guess. And I feel like it's kind of opening the doors into Eastern culture as a whole through Korea, I feel like. Because
Yeah.
because most of their yeah, like I said, they have like so many cultural icons now. Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
forgot who said this, but someone was saying that like K-pop is the biggest export of Korea.
yeah, I'm not sure on the numbers on that, but like I believe it. I definitely believe it. Like it's either
Just the amount of impact that it has now
yeah,
is crazy.
it's crazy, yeah. And even in other just like fields, even in other fields, like I feel like their cultural exports help them a lot. I feel like like even, I'm sure maybe this is a hot take, but BTS definitely sold more Samsung phones. Like there's no doubt in my mind. Like Samsung definitely sold more phones because of BTS. Like like
Yeah. Like you
know
put
what I
a
mean?
face on that and people are gonna be after that.
yeah. Yeah, definitely sold more
Like the amount of
Samsung.
times BTS has like sold miscellaneous products because they've like accidentally shown it in one of their V lives is insane.
Yeah.
Like one of the members literally like sold out some fabric softener one time.
Yeah.
It's like Pog.
Pog. Yeah. And you can if you're like a really big like tech nerd, you can tell like what year the Korean drama is in based on which Samsung phone they are showcasing.
Oh yeah.
Like it's
I've been
so
watching a
funny.
few, and they're doing the like flip phones from Samsung right now. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. And then like a few years ago they were like take out the new note and they like draw a map and then show something on the note. Dude, that was hilarious.
Crash landing when they do the delayed text messages.
Oh my god, dude, every single drama is just showing the new feature of a new Samsung phone. It's hilarious.
It's really funny when they do like product placement not subtly in Korean dramas.
Yeah. Dude, Subway, dude. Dude, how big is Subway in Korea, dude? Like, seriously. Yeah.
It sponsors every single K-drama out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that was a great episode. Thank you for listening, guys. And we'll,
This was fun.
This was fun. Yeah. Alright, guys, thank you for listening. We'll end it here. Bye.